Well, greetings and salutations, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's second half. Guys, we are halfway through the day and that much closer to tonight's live stream. 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. That means if you live in California, 9 p.m. or the middle of the country, it'd be what, 10 p.m. Central Time, I think. I'm not sure about Mountain Time, but yeah, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you all there. We have a lot of fun. We share experiences. We talk about the unexplained. Just a lot of great stuff. And it has really turned into just family and friends hanging out is pretty much what it is. That's how I feel. I look forward to it every week. So I hope to see you guys there. We are still getting a ton more snow right now. It has not let up. I have gone out and snowblowed twice so far. Initial time, the first time, it was the photo that I shared in the community post, about 14 inches, somewhere around there. And the second time, after I had cleaned up initially, there was another 6 inches. And now there's probably another 2 or 3. So we're coming up on 2 feet of snow in less than 24 hours. And it's still coming. Anyway, great day for sharing experiences. But before we get into all that, a couple links. As many of you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, channel membership, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon, PayPal, channel membership is in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support the channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It doesn't cost you a cent. Click the like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon, and folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things really do help the channel to continue to grow and go, and folks, they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Well, let's jump into tonight's second half, shall we? Really quick, the photo that you are seeing right now is the abandoned brick factory in the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens has a haunting history, cryptids, paranormal, and a lot of very interesting places, like the abandoned brick factory, the graffiti. And then there are just like the Blue Hole, which is another beautiful little place of water, just this blue water. You'll see a lot of great photos of the Pine Barrens today. So check this out. All right, everybody. Today I have a guest that I am very excited to bring to you guys. I saw him first on a YouTube video about the Pine Barrens, and I reached out, and it's taken some time. We've started talking just recently. He's subscribed to the channel, watches the channel, and I've learned a lot from his books and just talking to him how creepy and scary the Pine Barrens are. Today I have Paul Evans Pedersen with us. Paul, how are you?
Okay, man. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great. Thank you for taking some time out of your day.
Thank you, man. And let me say right off the bat how much I really love your channel. I really love and respect the work that you're doing, man. The amount of work that you put into this and the investigative part of it, I really, I respect it, man. It's a lot of work you're doing, and I appreciate it.
Coming from you, that means a lot, believe me. You've been doing this Pine Barrens kind of research for a long time. How long have you been doing research in the Pine Barrens?
Well, I'm going on 68 years old, and I started getting into, I guess, the cryptid, the scene of it, when my maternal step-grandfather, the first time I met him, my grandmother introduced him to the family after she married him. I think I was 6 or 7, but he told us a story. He was from Pennsylvania, up around like Route 6, northern Pennsylvania, up in that area. And he told us a story that he was coming back from a dance with his girlfriend years and years ago, and was walking with his arm around her, and she wanted his sweater because it was cool. So he went to take his sweater off, and as you bend down to take your sweater off, he looked like between his legs behind him and saw what he called a werewolf. And everybody in the room kind of like laughed and chuckled, because we all thought, werewolf is a thing that turns from a guy into a wolf at the full moon and stuff like that. And he goes, oh, no. He said, there's actual creatures up there that are called werewolves. And he saw at that time and had seen them before and heard them. And, everybody in our family, I was born and raised in Collingswood, which is just a mile outside of Philly. It's very urban. We all just laughed at him and thought, man, this guy's a kook. Who did Grandma marry?
Right.
Telling us about. But every time I would go over their house, I'd say, hey, Grandpa, tell me that story again. And it was always the same. And you could look at him and you could see that he wasn't trying to kid. He wasn't trying to put one over on us. He meant every word of that. And it just really got me interested in, from even that early age. And then, of course, when I was in the Indian Guides, and there's 2 camps the Indian Guides have here in South Jersey in the Pine Barrens. One is Metalioniquay for the girls, and the other's Akanikin. And we did some campouts in Camp Akanikin when I was, I guess, 7, 8 years old, and I just immediately fell in love with the Pine Barrens. It's such a stark difference from, the little towns you grow up in, the suburban towns in South Jersey, and in a short time, you're out in the middle of like nowhere, where there's 0 people per square mile. Right. And I just fell in love with it, and I later joined the Boy Scouts. And we were on a camp out. It was a merit badge camp out, and this farm it belonged to one of the kids' grandparents, back behind Bridgeton. And I guess it was 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and there was this god awful scream that like you've never heard in your life, and everybody in camp woke up immediately. And we just sat there and listened and heard nothing but that scream. It just put the fear of God in you. And anytime anybody talks about the Jersey Devil, it usually is accompanied, the first thing they'll say is, we heard this unbelievable scream. It's a cross between a screech and a growl. And once you hear it, it's like, you ride a bike, you just don't forget it. Right. And, it's one of the first things that really got me interested in, what in the world is out here? And then the research I've done on the Jersey Devil, all the stories. There's hundreds of stories going all the way back to before New Jersey was even settled by the Swedes. The Indians that are here, the Lenni Lenape, have a name for the Pine Barrens, which is Papoosing, and it meant the place of the serpent. So going back, hundreds and hundreds of years, the Pine Barrens it's known for something back there. Right. And I have people all the time say, well, do you believe in the Jersey Devil? And I tell them, people are seeing something, man.
Yeah.
People are seeing something. There's so many different reports of people seeing something that scares the hell out of them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's some people say it's got the eyes red as coal, wings of a bat. It looks like a horse or a goat. The head. It stands on 2 legs. It stands on 4 legs. There's just different reports of something being back there.
Yeah. Before we go any further about the Jersey Devil, for the people who don't know the story, do you mind kind of talking a little bit about Mother Leeds and kind of what happened?
Well, there's two stories.
Okay.
And I mean, they both kind of happen, but the way the Jersey Devil stories are usually told, there's 2 versions of it. The first one is the Jersey Devil was born to Mother Leeds. She got pregnant for the 13th time, and when she found out she was pregnant, she screamed, "May this thing be a devil!" She was sick and tired of being pregnant, I guess.
Right.
So she cursed it. And when it was born, the first story is it was born as this creature, immediately. And it killed everybody in the room. It killed its mother and, flew up the chimney and out into the night. The second story is it was born as a child, as a regular human, and then morphed into this creature, but it didn't hurt anybody, but they shooed it. They were so afraid of it, they shoot it out into the woods. And there's stories that it sat there crying, and which turned it into a mean creature because it just wanted to be like everybody else.
Just some love,
so,
wanted love
exactly.
as a child.
Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Now the crazy thing is, you have people like Joseph Bonaparte, who is Napoleon's brother.
Okay.
He used to live in Bordentown, which is right on the Delaware River, a little bit below Trenton. He reported that he shot it through the wing and it continued to fly. So, I mean, people of all walks of life down through the years, I mean, mayors, cops, people of note have seen what they describe as the Jersey Devil.
Right.
Not all of the reports, though, include wings. And as I listen to your channel, it's pretty remarkable. Some of your people that you're reading this stuff from could be that we have a Dogman problem here.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the reports that, like when I do my book signings, I have people that'll I'll ask them at all the book signings, does anybody here have a story they want to share about a Jersey Devil sighting? And sometimes people will stand up. I had a lady that said she was driving up the Atlantic City Expressway towards Philadelphia. They were about halfway between Atlantic City and Philly, and they saw this thing like hopping from tree to tree. And they couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was big, and she told her boyfriend that was driving, pull off the exit, get off the exit, and let's see if we can find it. And they drove back in the woods, all the sugar sand roads back here. They drove back in the woods, and this thing came down out of a tree in front of them and was 9 feet tall. Now, everybody in the room cracked up because that's the first time I ever heard somebody describe the Jersey Devil as that big, and I guess everybody else at that book signing had never heard that it was that big. But there was something about her. You can tell when people are lying to you or kidding around or exaggerating. She was absolutely dead serious. And I was so impressed with her and the way she told that story that she was on, I think, the Discovery Channel with me as another witness of the Jersey Devil.
Wow.
So, I mean, crazy. It wasn't something that and the producers of that show kept her on there, too. They were convinced that she saw something. And that's the whole thing, Jeff. People are seeing something.
Yeah.
There's definitely something out there. Yeah.
Yep. Well, when I reached out to you, I had said, I've got a channel. I sent you the link, I believe, and I just left it. I left it to your own device to see if you wanted to check the channel out, and
Yep.
you had never heard of Dogman.
I haven't heard of Dogman until I guess it was you reached out. January or February?
Yeah.
I guess it was.
Yep.
Yeah. I have never heard of it. Now, I think I heard of it once. I used to be in a road band out in Nashville, and the keyboard player, God rest his soul, he was one of my best friends, Ken Lush. He since passed away. I think I heard, he was from Michigan, and I think I heard him say something about Dogman, because we would share stories and stuff about, I tell him about the Jersey Devil. Well, I think he said, but I just never paid it any mind. I had no idea that it was as it is.
Right, yeah. And the funny thing is when you and I actually started to communicate back and forth, you shared that story with that girl and said, maybe people that are thinking they're seeing this Jersey Devil, not on all of them, because of course there's some that have claimed to have seen wings, but are seeing a Dogman instead because of the ability to jump in the trees, jump out of trees, be very agile. And
exactly.
I thought that was cool that you were that open-minded, because you don't really meet too many researchers that are open-minded to, really look at a whole different perspective.
Well, here's the thing, man. Here's the thing about doing the research, and I have seen twice something, and I was with, I'll say, a person. I'm not going to name who he was because he doesn't want to have anything to do with it. He's one of these guys that sees something and denies it.
Right.
And that's his thing. That's what he wants to do. Fine. But I was coming home from a book signing, and we were coming up Moss Mill Road, which is Route 561. It goes between Smithville, which is just outside of Atlantic City, and it goes into Hamilton, and it's pine barrens. It's watered the whole way. And I saw something like the color of a lion. It was like I'm not going to say blonde. It was a light brown.
Mm-hmm.
And it was huge, and it just glided across the street like quick. And I looked at the guy that was the person that was with me, and he looked at me, and I said, "What?" Well, I won't say what I said. What was that? And he got this half smile on his face, and he didn't want to see it. And I have talked to him a couple times since, and he just will not, he doesn't want to address it. And but man, I'll tell you what, it was like, but the thing that always got me was there was no wings on it. And there's no, I guess there are bear here. There's very, very few. But the bears that are here are black bears.
Yeah.
And they're tiny. They're little honey bears. This was not that. This was really big. And I have always wanted, and it's not been that long ago, man. It's been a couple of years. But I had another incident where my stepson had come home on a bus from Philadelphia when we lived, deep inside the Pine Barrens, and much more than where I'm at now. And he got off the bus, and he's walking up the road. We were about a quarter mile from the White Horse Pike, where he got off the bus at. And he's walking up the road, and every time he takes a step, something's following his footsteps.
Right.
And he would take a couple steps, and it would take a couple steps. And this goes on for a short period of time, and he runs. And he said the whole way up, it was in the woods on the other side of the street, following him up the street. And by the time he got to our house, he's out of breath, just about screaming that something is tracking him in the woods. I said, "Oh, man, come on." And he said, no. And there again, you can tell when somebody's scared to death, and when, you just see it. You can see their whole demeanor. And he was scared to death. And, things calmed down, and he went to bed. I went out there and looked. I didn't see anything. And he went to bed. My wife went to bed. And later I went to bed, and I'm turning out all the lights. And I had the steps to the second floor you walked up 9 steps and there's a landing, and the window looks out into my side yard. And I looked out into the side yard, and I saw, it was, there again, huge. And it like hopped the way it moved. And in 2 hops, that thing was through my yard. And I'm thinking, what am I seeing? What can this thing be? It looked like a bent over, a bear, a dog, I don't know, something that big that could cross my yard, which was a pretty big yard, in 2 hops or bounds or whatever. Right. But there again, no wings. So I couldn't attribute it to a Jersey Devil sighting. But whatever I saw, I saw. So after listening to some of your stuff on your channel, I'm thinking, it just really fits that it could be a Dogman.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know if a lot of people think that the Pine Barrens or that New Jersey is like the opening credits to The Sopranos, all Turnpike. There are parts of the Pine Barrens, like I said before, there's 0 people per square mile. There's just nothing out there.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing. You can go from 39,000 people per square mile, like up in North Jersey, Newark, up in there, Patterson, and in 45 minutes or an hour, you're in the woods, in the swamps, where there's no people per square mile for quite a bit, quite a while. You won't see anybody. And the Pine Barrens are 1.1 million acres of basically, pine forest, oak. There's some oak in there. And it's like before the settlers came, a lot of it. They've really managed to keep this area wild. It's the most wild area between Maine and North Carolina on the East Coast. And I saw a really cool picture from the space station that they took of the East Coast, and it was at night. And you can see all the trillions of lights, and there's one little black spot on the coast.
And that's the Pine Barrens. Wow,
yep.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's really a neat picture. It's online. But if there's something that was going to survive over the years and stay hidden, that's the place that could do it. It sure could, because it's got water, it's got everything you want to eat. There's a lot of deer in there, small mammals, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is with the Pine Barrens, like I wanted you to come on because, not only have you researched the Jersey Devil and this and that, but, you've got a lot of insight on a lot of things with the Pine Barrens, a lot of different, not even cryptid related, just strange related in general. It has its own kind of aura to it almost of just spookiness. Like,
oh yeah. There's so many stories and legends about the Pine Barrens. It's amazing.
I was looking at the map with you just a moment ago, and you said go over to this location and zoom out, and there's actual letters in the Pine Barrens, and it's very strange to see on a map. It was very cool to see though.
I get a lot of emails from people asking me, what in the world is this? And you look at that and it's like, wow, what is it? Who would put letters in the middle of nowhere?
Yeah.
And what do they mean? And of course, it was like McCartney's first album, The Bowl of Cherries That Were Spilled. Everybody tries to figure out, what does it say? Well, we try to put them letters together, and I have not a clue what they could mean.
Yeah, that's strange. I wonder if it's maybe something in Native American or, whoever, whatever culture.
Well, it could be, because the first reservation in the United States was here in the Pine Barrens, Brotherton.
Oh, wow, I did not know that. That's crazy.
Yes, sir. Yep. Yeah, the Pine Barrens is noted for a lot of stuff. I mean, the first really successful industry in the United States was glass making. And it's because of this stuff we have called sugar sand.
Okay.
And I mean, you can go out in the Pine Barrens and you can, the first date I was ever on, I took my father's car out to Bodine Field, which is in the middle of the Pine Barrens, and I got the thing stuck up to the windows and had to thank God somebody came along and pulled us out. But it's not that it's wet sand. It's like if you were driving on a beach. It's just the consistency of sugar. But especially during a dry spell, man. I mean, I was back going for a ride towards a blue hole the other day, and had to really be careful. I have a 4-wheel drive, but if you get in the right part of the sugar sand in the right conditions, you're stuck. So you really have to be careful. But that sand doesn't have to be washed or processed in any way to make glass. They dump it in a pot and they put, other chemicals and stuff in it.
Right.
And so there was a lot of glass houses in South Jersey. What they had to fire the furnaces with were the pine trees.
Yep.
And the old saying, the old legend is that in 1850 you could see from the ocean to the Delaware River because they just clear cut all the woods for the fuel for these furnaces. They made glass and iron. There was a lot of iron for cannonballs and stuff they made for the Revolutionary War in Batstow and other different places. And once they clear cut all the wood, these factories had to move west. So West Virginia and Pennsylvania, that's why all your mills and glass works wound up there.
Okay.
Because they just used all the woods in the Pine Barrens, which actually saved the Pine Barrens because with no businesses here, the people followed the businesses west and just left all this to regrow, and now you have a bunch of ghost towns that are still out there. And that's, basically how the Pine Barrens came to be.
Wow.
They were going to turn it into a giant jet port. The biggest jet port in the world was going to be where the Pine Barrens are. And they were going to have a town that supported 250,000 people. But a guy named John McPhee wrote 2 articles in the New Yorker magazine about exploring the Pine Barrens, and he about a piney that he became friends with. And Governor Brendan Byrne read the book. The articles were turned into a book, and decided, I'm not going to let this go and be a jet. And it would be a shame to have anything built on top of it because you're going to ruin all that water.
Right. Wow,
it's
that's
the biggest
crazy.
freshwater reserve in the United States except for the Great Lakes. So Brendan Byrne, got the legislation through and turned this into the Pinelands National Reserve in 1978. And thank God he did, man.
Yeah. Now, really quick, you had mentioned the blue hole.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know on that one YouTube channel that was mentioned, the blue hole was mentioned.
Yeah, the blue hole, the original blue hole. You got a lot of people running around now calling old sand pits. They mine sand here. And after they're done with it, they fill with groundwater, and they turn this incredible azure blue. It's mineral water. But they're not blue. Well, they call them blue holes, but the original blue hole is in Winslow Township Wildlife Management Area, and it's off of Piney Hollow Road, and it's about 100 yards west of the Great Egg Harbor River. And the blue hole is said to be bottomless. The water in it is crystal clear, whereas the water in the Great Egg Harbor River is what we call cedar water. It looks like iced tea. But this little pond, it's about 100 feet across, in circumference, is crystal clear water, and it stays 50 degrees all year long. And a lot of people have drowned in it. And people that almost drowned, but somehow are saved or get loose. And when I say get loose, they say they feel something pulling them under. And the old legend is that the Jersey Devil is in the blue hole, for his dip or whatever he does. And if you're in there when he's there, he's going to pull you under and drown you. So all the locals, down through the years would tell the kids, do not swim in the blue hole.
Right.
And I mean, they've had people in boats with these rods that are supposed to measure depth and stuff. They run out of rods. It's that deep.
Wow.
Now, scientists think it's either a meteor strike or what they call a pingo, which is Pingo, which is a column of ice that formed during the last ice age. And as things warm up, it defrosted and pushed itself through the surface of the ground. And it looks like a little crater all around it. And that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
Because these columns can be like, a mile, a half a mile long. And when it turns and defrosts, it comes straight up and pops through. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
But I'll tell you what, man, it's a very strange place. Every time I've been there, the first thing you notice is it's dead quiet. It's really crazy. I took a reporter back there. She did an article, and she was pretty upset. I mean, it's that stark. Hearing absolutely nothing is unnerving.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. It really will put the chill up your back.
And if you even think about it, like so you've got no sound, but then you've got a body of water that stays 50 degrees year round, even in the winter. It makes no sense.
Nope.
It's like a magical place. It's a truly magical place.
Well, I put a story of how I think, or it's a made up story. It's fiction of how the blue hole really got there. It's one of the stories in my book, and I also wrote a song about it.
Right.
The blue hole.
Yeah. Now your book.
But it's a magical place, man. It's really mysterious.
Talk really quick. Your book, New Tales from Old Haunts: The Legendary Pine Barrens. It's a great book. I'm going to put the link into the description below, and you've sent me 2 CDs, Lines on the Pines, which is songs all about the Pine Barrens, and Aqua Noir, which means dark waters, and if you don't mind, I put the links to your music in the description below too, so people can check it out. I encourage everyone to.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Very great book, and the CDs are great. I actually had to, before I did the interview with you, I had to grab the Lines from the Pines back from my mom. So
I'm glad she enjoys it, man. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, it's definitely, it reminded me of growing up with just kind of Charlie Daniels, kind of the Oak Ridge Boys, a little bit of, just Americana.
It's Americana.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a genre called Americana or outlaw Americana, Southern, well, it's not Southern rock. It's a little, it's Americana.
It's definitely.
It's a little bit of country and a little bit of folk, and I try to, meld it into one sound.
Yeah. Now, with the Pine Barrens, you had shared a kind of an interesting thing about these pygmy pines. Can you talk about that section of the pines so people can kind of really, I really would like people to really know kind of how beautiful this place is, but with mystery.
The pygmy pines are basically right along Route 72 and Route 539, which is, it's I'm not going to say hilly. Like when you're driving east on Route 72, you're driving along, and New Jersey is very flat. All of a sudden, you're going up this like plateau, and at that point, the pines won't grow any more than 4 or 5 foot high. And it's like they don't know why that happens there. And it's really crazy because you can get pictures of you standing there, and it looks like you photoshopped yourself in like a regular pine forest, but those things are no higher than your chest.
Right.
Yeah, and it's really, and the soil there is much more like pea gravel.
Okay.
Than the rest of the Pine Barrens is like sugar sand. And for some reason, at that point, at that part of the Pine Barrens, and it's probably, I don't know, several thousand acres worth of area that the pygmy pines are in. But it's a higher part of the Pine Barrens than the rest of it.
That's so cool.
It may be because the water drains so fast that it doesn't really. They have a lot of fires there. Okay. It's very dry. Yeah. But it's a little bit unnerving to go walking through a forest that you're taller than the trees.
Yeah, it's almost like you're a giant.
Exactly. Exactly right.
That's
Yep.
cool. That is so cool.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
That's towards like the northern end of the Pine Barrens. The Pine Barrens extends, I guess, a quarter way into Ocean County, and then Atlantic County, Burlington County, some of Camden County and Gloucester County, and I'm forgetting one, Burlington County.
Okay.
It's 22% of the land area in New Jersey is Pine Barrens, and 35% of that 22% is wetlands, swamp.
Wow.
So, like I said, habitat-wise, it's perfect for things that don't want to be found, or
Yeah, absolutely. It's
The research I've done, I have come across one creature that would best describe what the Jersey Devil looks like, and it's a dimorphodon. And then there was another one you and I had discussed, and I looked at that, and I don't see how that could fly.
the snellygaster.
Right.
Yeah.
It looks like his body's too heavy for its wings.
Yeah,
But the dimorphodon, it really looks like what people describe. I mean, it's got the wings of a bat. It's got sharp teeth and like an elongated head, the head of a horse or a goat.
Yep.
It's got a long tail. And, I keep my mind open because who knows what crossed over from one age to the next.
Yep.
And it would need a place that it could be left alone and feed itself and have water. And, that's always been the bugaboo of the Jersey Devil mystery for me, is if there's only one, how is it replicating? How have people seen this thing for, hundreds and hundreds of years?
Yeah. Yeah, it's very strange.
Unless it can morph itself, or who knows?
Yeah, but like we just said, it's a magical place. There may be some sort of, I don't know, portal or whatever that this thing can come from one
that
area.
Could be. Yep, we have an area down here called the Mananico Ponds, and that place, as soon as I go in there, and I'm very sensitive to like my surroundings,
okay,
and how I feel about like impending danger. Like a lot of times being in a band, I would go to see other bands and leave the house and get in the car and have this feeling come over me like, don't go. And I always listen to that. I always listen to my gut. I'm always real sensitive to, what my guts are telling me. And every time I go back into Mananico, it's like, man, you don't want to be here. And it's weird because I can't shake the feeling. Some places you get that feeling, like the Blue Hole the first time I was back there, I felt the same way. It was like, oh, man, you don't want to be here. But then it goes away. Mananico is just, I can't describe it. It's really, really strange. It's just like, you shouldn't be here right now.
Right.
Each time I go. So I try to shake the feeling, but we'll see.
Now, that feeling that you get, we've talked about a couple different places in the Pines. Is there not a place in the Pines that you don't get that feeling?
There's plenty of places that I don't get the feeling.
Okay.
I love being in the Pine Barrens. I'm in the Pine Barrens probably every day. I live, I don't know, probably 200 yards from the westernmost border. My house where I live now in Franklin Township is not designated Pine Barrens. See, that's the other thing. There's a lot of woods here that, especially in Cumberland County, that's heavily wooded and swamped. There are a lot of really deep cedar swamps back in there, to the point that you could be in Louisiana or Mississippi.
Right. And
it's hard describing that to people that have never been to New Jersey, because they see the opening thing in The Sopranos and think, yeah, right, where's the swamp?
Yeah.
But it's amazing how wild Cumberland County is, a lot of it. But they don't designate it Pine Barrens because then they're not allowed to build. Trying to build something in the Pine Barrens is an act of Congress almost. It's amazing.
Okay.
And that's what saved it. Yeah, thank God we have
It's like Forever Wild.
Pine Barrens Commission.
Yep.
you have to go in front of the Pine Barrens Commission with all kinds of specifications. You're not allowed to build on wetlands. I tried to build a house in the middle of the Pine Barrens, right outside of Greenbank, and at the time they say, no, it's on wetlands. We're not going to give you the permits. And, of course, now there's a house right there. You know, I guess it's who you know.
Go figure, right?
New Jersey.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now, has there ever been, through the years that you've researched the Jersey Devil, has there ever been in recent years an attack on any? Has anybody ever claimed to have been attacked?
Yep.
Can you share
a
that
couple
with us?
years ago? A couple years ago. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was just going to say, could you share that with us?
Oh yeah, a couple years ago we had a lot of livestock kills. Okay. And down through the years, attacks by the Jersey Devil usually implore that there's a war coming. So, of course, any day I'm waiting to hear of some attacks the way this world's going. Yeah. But years ago, you know, there was a lot of attacks of livestock. And the crazy thing of how they were attacked was they were attacked from underneath. And and people first thought it was mutilations and stuff, or some kind of veve and voodoo and all this other jazz they have throughout the Pine Barrens. You'll find, you know, crazy stuff, chickens with their heads cut off in a pentagon and stuff like that, because there is some, you know, voodoo and stuff, Santeria in the Pine Barrens with all the influx of people.
That's something that you and I talked about, because you know, I can relate a lot with you because of where I live, because people think New York and they don't think the Adirondacks, they don't think Hudson River Valley, and you know, there's a lot of kind of satanic cults and just a lot of strange, you know, creatures, UFOs, this and that. And you know, it's almost right there for you the same way, you know, like you said, with the cedar swamps, the only thing you guys don't have is the Spanish moss.
Exactly. Yeah. Otherwise, you could be in I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Southern Comfort. Yeah, yeah. They could have shot that in New Jersey. That all through the movie. We don't have Spanish moss, but we're starting to get kudzu.
Oh, really?
Which really, man, that's crazy looking in the Pine Barrens. Wow. Yeah, it really is. And in fact, there's some kudzu real close to where I live. I'm pretty sure it's kudzu, because I lived in Nashville for a while. Okay. And all down through 81 in Bristol, as you're going west on 81, after you go through Bristol, Tennessee, there's a patch of that road that is just, man, it's all over the place. Yeah. And the way it grows, it looks like giant figures standing there. It's really weird. And there's a field not far from me where this kudzu's on this tree, and it looks like a guy standing there. I'll take a picture and send it to you.
I'd love to see that. That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks like ivy, but it's this kudzu.
I wonder if someone planted it there just to plant there, and now it's becoming, because it's an invasive plant. And
exactly. Well, from what I understand, down in Tennessee, man, they're trying to get rid of it because it strangles everything. That it leaches. I hope somebody's not up here planting it.
Yeah, because that would really cause havoc in the Pine Barrens. It would really.
Oh, it sure would.
Matter of 50 years, that crap would grow and really ruin the habitat of the whole area.
Well, you know what, man? I played in this band out in Nashville. I lived in Nashville, but mostly commuted back and forth because my wife's job, had to have her here, and I would go down 81 in the all through the 90s, from the late 80s to the late 90s, and I can't believe how that stuff has spread. I mean, when I first started going to Nashville, you would see a little bit of it in Virginia, like in Christiansburg and Blacksburg, that area, Southern Virginia, and then, man, I mean, it just went crazy. Yeah. And you see it all through Hungry Mother State Park, and it's like, man, this stuff is really nuts. So it really spreads quick, and because I'm seeing it like near the Delaware Memorial Bridge now and stuff. And I guess maybe somebody, I don't know if it had seeds or whatever, but somebody might have come over the bridge and say, throw this out.
Yeah. The first time I ever heard about it was from a retired sheriff who then went to animal control, and she was, she's been studying like Dogman, but her main fascination was the beast of Bladenboro, and she would talk a lot about the kudzu in that area and the dismal swamp and stuff like that, and how invasive it is. And it strangles off the natural plant life. And, for the Pine Barrens, it would be kind of hell on earth, for the plant life.
Yeah, it would.
There.
I don't know if it's really taking a hold, I don't know how they're going to get rid of it, man. Because I think the only way you can do it, and even then it doesn't work all the way, is burn it out.
Yeah. And
the last thing you want in the Pine Barrens is fires.
Fire, yeah.
Oh, man. We have some bad ones. And the problem is that on, the edges of the Pine Barrens, you have like Brick Township and Wall Township, and which are highly people all over the place. You got these giant residences right on the verge of the Pine Barrens, right on the border. And if they get a good one going east, you could really have a disaster on your hands.
Absolutely. So we kind of talked about Jersey Devil, Dogman. How about some superstitions, like paranormal, like apparitions? What about that? Is there any kind of
there's a lot of old towns here, a lot of old towns.
Okay.
And there's lots of ghost stories. There's lots of ghost stories. There's the famous Atco ghost.
What's that? Can you share that with us?
There was a kid playing basketball, and it was a hit and run, and he died. And the way the story goes is, if you go down this road, Burnt Mill Road, and park your car at the end of the road and flash your high beams 3 times, you'll see the kid dribbling a ball past your car.
Wow.
And lots of people, I guess the cops probably, every 5 calls they get is somebody complaining about people down there flashing their lights.
Yep.
But it's so you have that. You have a lot of houses that were built in the 1700s that seem to be very active. You get the feeling when you're in there that you're not by yourself. Yeah, I've had that feeling several times.
Yeah, because I think you were telling me. I don't know if you wanted me to bring it up. I'm gonna hit pause real quick, and that way I can make sure I'm not stepping on your toes. Hang on 1 second. All right, so I didn't want to step on your toes because you and I have talked a lot about a lot of different things, so I kind of wanted to make sure that I didn't say anything that I wasn't supposed to. You collect mason jars, and you're very into antiquing, and you told me a story yesterday about a place that you were looking through and you saw a potbelly stove.
Yeah. Yep. I saw this. This was in Gloucester County, pretty deep in Gloucester County. And, I keep my eyes out for if developments are going to go up and there's a house on there. If they're going to knock the house down, I like to go through them and check them out. And I made a habit of watching this one place. And sure enough, they were going to build stuff. So I went in this place, and I saw the potbelly stove. I looked through the door and saw the potbelly stove. And I went in there to start disassembling it. And as soon as I opened the door, it was like, oh, God. It's this horrible, nasty, like blanket of smell, just all over, permeating it was amazing how bad it smelled. And about that time, I heard this really deep growl, and something come charging up the steps. Well, I don't have to tell you, man, I was out of that house quick. It was amazing. And of course, now the house is gone, but I have no idea what could have been down that cellar.
Yeah, you can.
But there was definitely something down there, and it didn't like me in there. I was only in there, long enough to start taking the stovepipe off so I could get that potbelly stove. And the way I look at it, man, is you're rescuing it from the wrecking ball.
Yeah.
And, I've got some bottles like that, some old bottles going through a house and different places that I know are going to be knocked down. And it's like, you're saving them for history.
Yeah.
And I collect them. I'm not selling them on eBay. I have about 3,000 bottles in my collection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And, most of them were made right here in South Jersey in the 1850s, 1860s, the pre-Civil War.
With that sugar sand.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
The first mason jar was blown in what's called Crowley's Landing now, but at a little town called Crowleytown, which is just east of Batstow, and the first mason jar was blown right there. Yeah.
Some history right there, guys.
They're highly, highly, highly collectible. If you can find a Crowleytown jar, it'll be, one of your centerpieces of your collection. They're hard to get.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, well, I'm not supposed to say that I dig in state property, but I dig in state property, and there's a lot of glass still around, man. I make what they call Pine Barren diamonds jewelry.
Okay.
And it's jewelry that I make with glass that I dig up in the Pine Barrens, and then I tumble it and put it in my kiln and get it to look real nice. And that's what I do.
That's awesome.
But
do you have a store that you sell that on too?
I have around 16 different stores that carry it.
Okay.
It's local. A lot down the shore, the Jersey Shore, like Wildwood, Ocean City. I have a place.
I mean, like if somebody wanted to, if they're hearing this and they want to check it out, is there a way that they could buy it from you online, possibly?
Yeah, they can go on my Facebook page, Pine Barren Diamonds.
Okay, I'll put that in the link as well.
Oh man, thanks. I don't have like a regular page, like a website, because it looks different in person than it does in any picture that I take of it.
Right.
So, yeah, you just got to kind of trust what you're seeing. Because when I first started the business, I had so many returns because this isn't the color that I ordered. Because it looks different in, pictures. But you'll get an idea of what it looks like.
Yeah, well, it's a unique piece of art, it's kind of stupid someone would want to send it back,
Yeah, there's no two that are exactly alike.
Now I'm sorry.
No, it's unique. Each piece is unique.
Yeah. Now you and I have been talking. I kind of feel a friendship with you, and
absolutely,
we have been discussing the channel and the attacks that I've talked about. And you kind of wanted to talk about a little bit about that and your feeling about all of the stuff that I've been talking about with them.
Well, there's a couple, there's 3 or 4, man. I mean, that you've talked about in the last, I guess, month, that I cannot believe are not national news.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really surprised, especially with the upload of those pictures a couple days ago.
Right.
Of whatever in the hell that creature is. If that is running around the woods, I don't care what state. And I mean, if there's that one, there has to be more.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Yeah. Well, that woman that I interviewed the day after, she had said, I had posted the video, and of course I got people saying that it's from Africa, this, and that. But a subscriber reached out to one of her friends because she had remembered hearing her say something about a hyena, like, a quadruped, not a dogman, a quadruped animal.
Right.
That was huge. And, the woman wasn't a subscriber. She just very kindly took 20 minutes out of her time to tell us about it. And, it was just disturbing.
Well, if what you posted on the pictures, if these things are running around and killing people,
yeah,
and on several of them, suddenly you have like men in black showing up, people from the government telling this guy in Kentucky, don't talk about it, don't dare let anybody in town talk about it. What does that tell you? That somebody knows these things are around.
Mm-hmm.
You know, somebody knows these things are capable of doing what they are doing. And if they hear, you know, they check news outlets and stuff like that, or Facebook, or all these different social media venues we have now, and see that somebody goes missing, and then they're found, you know, months later, or in a pile of bones, or in a cave, and then suddenly these guys show up and tell everybody to be quiet. That's crazy.
Like Virginia.
And you know what's really weird, man? I don't know if it's a coincidence or not, but you're getting all these killings showing up, and now we have the Ministry of Truth all of a sudden? What does this... I mean, you know, it can't be just a coincidence.
Yeah, I thought about that.
I just don't believe in coincidences like this, man. And if these people are telling people to shut up and don't discuss this, there's a hell of a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, this stuff should be on the national news at night.
Yeah. Even, you know, like you and I were talking, and take out the belief that we have of cryptids. We just pull that out of the picture for a moment and just talk about, you know, the neglect of these cases and the, you know, disinformation that people are getting. That's national news, you know, and it's not. One researcher to researcher, one thing I found strange was with the Virginia thing, that woman that I had on that had seen a hyena creature was in Mercer County. That's right across the border of Tazewell and Buchanan, where 8 bodies have been found in the last year. I mean, we're talking 4 months. I called, funny thing, and I don't know if it's coincidence, but, you know, I had called the state police department, or the state police public relations officer of Virginia, and I had spoken to her, and I said, can you tell me a little bit about the bodies being discovered in Tazewell and Buchanan? And she goes, bodies? And that was when Timothy Honecker was found first. And next thing you know, there's a large, you know, group of police and search and rescue and this and that going down there to find another guy that was in a cave that nobody was talking about. And,
See, that's what I'm talking about, man. How these people are being notified that one of these things just did another number.
Yeah.
I don't mean to say that like that. I mean, it's a person. You know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's active and it kills somebody else, and all of a sudden they show up.
Yep.
No, man. It's just that's. And who are they?
Yeah.
You know, who are these people that are telling this guy Charles down there in Kentucky? You know, don't ask any questions. Nobody's going to tell you anything. Something about his daughters are going to be harmed.
Yeah, the sheriff's daughter. Or
that's
something.
Crazy.
And you know,
this is the United States, man. I mean, I have. It's
when you and I
really remarkable.
You and I have been bouncing ideas off of each other, and I had said, you know, he had shared with me that supposedly these people were from Homeland Security, and ironically enough, the Board of Disinformation is Homeland Security.
Homeland Security.
How hand in hand is that? You know, I mean, that's very
that
strange.
That doesn't just happen.
Yeah.
That doesn't just happen, man. There's definitely something. And with the FBI photographer, the lady that they found her in the water, and now the husband's nowhere to be found.
Yep.
Why isn't somebody charged?
Yeah.
I mean, this makes no sense.
None of it makes sense.
People just don't go missing, man, and nobody does anything about it. It's insane.
Yeah. It's a
sad world. Look at the Gabby Pepito thing.
Yeah.
You know, God rest her soul, but look at how they went crazy over trying to find this girl.
Yeah.
And then when they did, and they found her dead, how they hounded the parents and this and that, trying to get the guy, her husband.
Yeah.
And then they find these people in Virginia and just let it go.
Yeah, it's
No.
disgusting. It's, you know, and
that would tell me that they don't want anybody to know what the hell's going on.
Exactly.
Especially if they're telling people to shut up. Keep it quiet. I mean, it's just, this is ridiculous.
I think that the Appalachian region, the Great Smokies, the Ozarks, any of those places have been a hot spot for so long and quiet for so long. Then the introduction of the internet and, like you said, all of these social media things that are being talked about on there, it really kind of stirs the pot. They have to work overtime on covering this crap up. And it is disturbing.
Well, they have these flags that they put on these social media sites that if you type in a certain word, it lets somebody know that word's being typed.
Yeah.
So they can go immediately and see what you're social mediating about.
Yep.
There's when we first got on Facebook, we would type words on purpose and to get shut down.
Really?
Just to prove the point. That if you type certain things, all of a sudden you're in jail. And it's these bots, it's these robots that are programmed that if you type something, it's going to give you the warning or shut you down or suspend you for 12 hours or 24. I've had it happen to me a bunch of times.
Yeah.
And it's because, these things know what you're typing.
I had my Twitter account taken. I had to delete something about... I had made a mention of possible Dogman attack on Twitter, and I don't use Twitter a lot. I just wanted to see, what it was and this and that, and I posted this thing, and the next thing I know, it said, your account has, been frozen.
Yep.
Take this down, or your account will be permanently deleted. And I was like, oh, what? So I took it down.
You know what would be a good experiment to do with this? Is to call Dogman or werewolf, call it something else.
Right.
And start using that term on Facebook or whatever, and let them find out what that really means, and then see if that word is censored.
Yeah.
Then you would know who's listening, and
like walking wolves or something. Use that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And see if the bots start picking that up.
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Because they must be pulling their hair out with as many different flags as they have. Mostly it's about politics, but I would love to see how far into, legends and cryptids, how close they're watching and who's watching.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, have you? I know you shared one thing with me. You don't have to bring that up, but with your research on the Jersey Devil, have you hit any kind of road bumps, where someone said kind of shut up or, don't look in this area or kind of like that?
Well, you know what? Around here, if you get to talk to officials or like park rangers and stuff like that, the immediate thing is it's a sneer.
Right.
They will not take it serious officially. But like I said, at my book signings and giving talks and stuff like this in South Jersey, the people take it seriously. But if you have cops or officials or somebody like that in the audience, they just boo-hoo. They make a face. They won't officially acknowledge it.
Right. Yeah.
Which I find. Yeah, it's like there's this wall that they'll go so far with and then call you a nut. And the shame of it is this is why so few people talk about it.
Yep.
If you start talking about the Jersey Devil and cryptids in New Jersey, and all of a sudden people don't talk to you anymore. Or you hear, that's the Jersey Devil guy. You seen the Jersey Devil today, dude?
Yeah.
You start getting that kind of stuff.
Where's your aluminum foil hat?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a shame because that's keeping a lot of stuff covered up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those in power know that.
Yep.
That the problem takes care of itself because people are afraid to talk.
It almost makes sense that Homeland Security would be the agency to handle that,
That makes perfect sense. That's what it is, Homeland Security.
Yeah, yeah.
And if these things are running around, man, the homeland ain't secure.
Right. No.
If these things, as big as they are, get into a campground Or I'm just surprised that one of them hasn't gone after. It's horrible to say, but it's going to take something like this going after a playground full of kids. Then you're going to see all hell break loose.
I think then it'd be covered up, though. I guarantee probably.
They can't cover up a mass situation. And sooner or later, like Camp Akanikin and Matalianaquay, where you have a lot of kids,
right?
All in the same spot. And I think with all the cameras, everything is videoed now. Sooner or later, we're going to get, there he is.
Yeah. Without
a doubt, traipsing after somebody, or somebody, kill one in the road, and somebody's going to, like that one, they took the guy's camera and stuff. Come on.
Yeah.
What? That's unbelievable that and it just covers up like this.
Yeah.
But it's just going to take one thing to bring it to the surface, and then you're going to have David Muir and a whole bunch of them, and they'll soft soap it. Well, we're looking at something that could have, Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But it needs one in-your-face incident, and I pray to God nobody gets hurt. But sooner or later, it'll. I think the same with Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, somebody's going to get a grip. And here's the thing, Jeff. I saw, and you only saw it once, and now it's disappeared. But years ago, somebody had a video of a Bigfoot attacking a camper.
Really?
And it was clear as hell. Yes. And I have looked for that thing 100 times, and it's just gone. But you could hear everybody in the camper screaming bloody murder. I think it was in Washington State, and now the video no longer exists.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's.
There were supposed really good pictures of what somebody thought was the Jersey Devil,
mm-hmm.
and that's gone. There is a picture of the Jersey Devil. Supposedly, it flew into wires, and you have the state police standing around it. I can't find that anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's social media can be a pain in the ass, but I think it's going to really finally, and I hope it's done in my lifetime. Like I said, I'm working on 68, but I really like to see this stuff.
It may be what pays off. It might just be,
yep.
and hopefully it isn't a park full of kids, but I do hope we do get, and I had made this statement before. Let's say someone caught a Dogman or a Bigfoot or whatever, and put the cage in the middle of the Super Bowl, someone would still discredit it. And
I'm sure they would.
And there would still be, it would just, and then after that discredit, 6 months later, it would be forgotten about.
Doing all this research on the Jersey Devil, the cool thing about it is the creatures that I have found that people have showed me trying to discredit the Jersey Devil.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've never heard of the Dimorphodon until I wrote the book and started telling people what it looks like. And, you have people stand up and say, well, have you ever seen a Dimorphodon? And, you start seeing new stuff.
Yeah.
And real, yeah.
But if there's a Dimorphodon flying around the Pine Barrens, it's still, guess what, a cryptid. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Like, geez, crow. It's.
Yeah.
Huh.
The hammerhead bat. I came up upon that, and I thought, there it is. That's the Jersey Devil. And who's to say it's not?
Yeah.
But who would keep bringing a hammerhead bat from Australia? What, to scare some people?
Yeah.
After a while, you.
And how the hell would they get it here?
Exactly. Exactly.
It makes no sense. It's
no.
But
it's like I say, man. People are seeing something, and I hope to one day walk up to it and shake its hand and say, "Finally, I found you."
Yeah, that'd be great.
I would love to get that close to see it.
Yeah. We're coming.
And I continue to do it, man. Every time I go through the Pine Barrens, I look. I really watch.
I had made the statement once that I said if they ever did find 100 solid proof that Bigfoot, Dogman, everything exists, and they came out and admitted to it, I would still do what I do, because you know, there's still going to be secrets being held from us about these things.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely.
So,
you know, one of the coolest things anybody ever said to me was, "You'll never know what you don't know."
yeah, that's wow.
I mean, there's so much to know. You know, there's so much we don't know.
Yeah,
and probably never will in our lifetime.
100%. We are coming up on time. Is there anything that you'd like to say that we didn't say?
Well, I just, you know, come to South Jersey and enjoy the Pine Barrens, but, you know, keep your eyes open and keep your ears open. And I again want to tell you how much I respect what you're doing, man. I really enjoy the channel, and I you know, you're putting yourself out there and doing all this research. And you know, I read some comments. I hope everybody is appreciating the time and energy that you're putting into doing this. I mean, you know, you're the guy that's doing it. And if this thing surfaces and we all find out that we have this problem, I think it's largely going to be from, you know, the fruit of your labor.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, man, it's amazing.
I really try, and you know, it's
what we call journalism, and that's exactly what you're doing, man. You're researching something that there's a question about. That's what a journalist does, and reports back. That's exactly what you're doing.
The one thing that I can say about this, and you as a journalist too, you'll know exactly what I mean, is, you know, even if I never do get the truth, the one thing that I've gotten from doing this is I've gotten to meet great people like yourself and other people that I've interviewed, and it's been worth it. Even if I never get the 100% evidence out there that I know exists, but at least I got to meet people like yourself and people like Charles and Jody and all those other people that I've met. It's been worth just that, you know. So
sure, and you're waking people up to stuff, man. You know, people need to really watch what's going on in this country right now.
Yeah, definitely.
You know, they really do. Even other than Dogman and Bigfoot, but it just shows you at what lengths people will do to keep things, you know, out of the public eye.
Yep.
But people need to watch, man. You know, watch your surroundings.
Absolutely.
At all times.
Absolutely. Well, I got one thing I want to say before we end this is that Paul and I have come up with some good ideas, and hopefully we can figure a way of bringing these ideas to life. And I think if we are able to, I think people will be pleasantly surprised to check them out if we do achieve these things that we talked about. So
absolutely, man. Well, absolutely. One of my favorite sayings is the difference between wanting and having is doing. So let's do it, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's get it done.
Let's do this, brother. Do me a favor, don't hang up, but it's been awesome having you on. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know that you've had some allergy issues lately. At least we made it through.
Yes, sir.
All right, brother.
And let me give a shout out to your audience, man. You know, thank them. It looks like you got some really good, loyal people. I read the comments, and it's you know. Let me say that too. I don't know if you want to use it or not. You know, I told you earlier, if I didn't believe 100% in my heart that you were anything but entirely sincere, I wouldn't do this.
Yeah. You
know, I've had opportunities presented to me and turned them down because of, you know, who the people were or whatever. And I just, you know, you gotta be careful. You know, I cherish my reputation. You cherish yours, and you have to handle business like that.
Yeah.
But I believe you're 100% sincere, man. And like I said, I respect you.
I definitely am. And those opportunities that you speak of are 10 times bigger than this little channel that. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this interview as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Paul is just one heck of a nice guy. Very dedicated to researching the Pine Barrens, preserving the history. But I love how he had never heard of Dogman and then started to realize that hey, maybe, just maybe, some of these sightings of these Jersey Devil is a Dogman. And you know, it takes a lot for researchers who have, you know, viewed something one way to then view it in a totally different way, shape, form, to admit that, you know, it really does. And Paul is one of those researchers who can, you know, reminds me a lot of Kuhnbo, really does. So with that, everyone, thank you for supporting the channel. Your support is what makes this channel continue to grow and go, and what makes it a safe place for people to want to share. So you guys stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant, keeping an eye on our children, our pets, our family, and friends. These creatures are real, they are out there, and they are definitely dangerous. Share this info with the people you love and care about, and it may just help save their lives someday. Until next time, never stop asking questions, never stop searching for the truth, and God bless.